Welcome to Far East Wargaming. We're back this week with something pretty special. It's our first time looking at Battle Fleet Gothic.
Yes, we're actually going to play Battle Fleet Heresy, which is basically BFG games in the Heresy universe. We're happy to do that because we're kind of testing things, right?
Yes.
We want to try and figure out ways to do a campaign that links this. It links the new Legions Imperialis.
Yeah, the one coming out.
Regular Heresy games. So this is kind of a test for us, and we're really excited to bring it to you, but we also want to get your feedback and see what you think about the format.
Yeah. Since we are a Heresy channel, we're not going to be using the fleet lists from Battle Fleet Gothic themselves. We're using the Heresy-focused ones called Battle Fleet Heresy, made by the Battle Fleet Gothic community. So we're playing a cruiser clash with 800 points.
Yep.
And it is Emperor's Children versus Sons of Horus.
The Sons of Horus. So I'm going to be piloting mostly cruisers while you are going to have
strike cruisers. So you have heavy cruisers and some of the more chaos cruisers.
Yep.
I'm using the Space Marine strike cruisers with different loadouts. So we'll be here with the army lists and then we'll bring you the game.
See you in a moment.
So here are the fleets for our first Battle Fleet cruiser clash. Starting with the Sons of Horus, the flagship is a Hades heavy cruiser, and with the fleet list we're using, they get a free Terminator upgrade. Also, the Murder in the back there, this is a Murder cruiser with Terminators on board as well. And then two identical Devastation class cruisers taking up the rear. For the Emperor's Children, we are all in strike cruisers. All of them have been upgraded to have 2 shields. The first one has full bombard setups, replacing its launch bay for bombards. The front 2 here are the ones representing the torpedoes, so they've replaced their launch bays with torpedoes. And the back 2 are the standard cruiser loadouts with Thunderhawk launch bays. So that's 800 points of Emperor's Children and Sons of Horus in Battle Fleet Heresy. So for our first game of Battle Fleet Gothic, here is the terrain and the initial deployment for both the Sons of Horus and the Emperor's Children. So Jason, what's you got here for the Sons of Horus?
Yep, so for the Sons of Horus, we are outnumbered, and unfortunately we had to deploy first. So on my right-hand side, I have the Murder Cruiser, just kind of trying to draw attention and force Rich to split up his deployment. Next up in the direct middle is my flagship, my Hades Heavy Cruiser. Hopefully be able to get off some shots with those Lance batteries turn 1. And then finally on the left flank is both of my little carrier ships. So these are 2 Devastation cruisers, each with their launch bays. Want to be able to get those into action relatively quickly as well.
For the Emperor's Children, we do outnumber them. So for our first little wolf pack here, we have 3 strike cruisers. The first one you see in the pair is a full bombard. At the front we have one representing with launch bays. And then the slightly skinnier one at the back represents the torpedo bays instead of launch bays. Then on the other flank, to try and flank out the sole cruiser on the side there, we have again one with launch bays and one with torpedoes. I think Sons of Horus have turn 1. We'll be back in a bit.
So turn 1 movement phase for the Sons of Horus. Starting on my right flank, we've got the Murder Cruiser here. It was a bit of a feint actually, so I moved forward, made my turn, and then moved forward again. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to maximize the number of shots that I can get on this particular wolf pack over here of the Emperor's Children. I've kind of positioned myself in a way, hopefully as well, to prepare for future turn movement at the Emperor's Children, but really I only put them on this flank to try and split up the deployment of the Emperor's Children from the very start. Next up, I have my Hades flagship, who slowly moved forward because its lances are already in range. And I did that to kind of try and maximize cover from the asteroid field in case there's any shots coming from the Emperor's Children on my right flank. My first of the Devastation cruisers also applied a similar logic as the Hades, not moving up his full movement, but just the minimum required, again to get lance shots, but also protect himself, hopefully using the asteroids. And then finally, my last Devastation, it's a bit of a feint. He also moved forward, turned, moved forward again. He's not going to really be able to shoot anything this turn, but what I am going to do is try to force the Emperor's Children to make choices on what they want to do with that asteroid field. Shooting and ordnance phase combined for the Sons of Horus. So starting here on my right flank, the Murder was in a perfect position to split fire. Using its starboard weapons, it managed to score 2 hits on its opponent over here to the right, with the blast markers there to denote the success. The lance was less successful. I fired my prow lance into the closest Emperor's Children of the wolf pack over here on my left, and unfortunately missed with absolutely everything. In the middle, the Hades flagship opened up with both its prow and dorsal lance batteries that could shoot forward, firing at the same target, and as you can see, we've only managed to score a single hit. So for those keeping track at home, that's 6 lance shots with only 1 successful hit on the opponent. Not very good. My 2 devastation cruisers here on the middle and the left flank, neither one of them had either line of sight or range for any of their weapons, and they elected not to deploy any ordnance this particular turn. So we'll come back in a moment and we'll see if we can absorb the return punch of the Emperor's Children.
Emperor's Children's turn 1 movement phase for this fleet. We moved in our small gang on the left to try and encroach on the lone, I think it's a murder there, because he's the one standing out and the only one in range. Our other guys, because of our shorter range of only 30, weren't going to be able to get anything in range, and we're going to eat a lot of shots. So they took some risks, and they went into the asteroid field.
Cowardly Emperor's Children.
To go into an asteroid field, they had to take leadership checks. And if they fail, they take D6 hits, which is always the risk. Luckily, their leadership is pretty high, 9, 10, and 10. They were all good. 2 are in the field, 1 trailing at the back, just encroaching on the back there. Hopefully, they survive to the next round, but it may force the Sons of Horus to look for other targets. We'll see. So for the damage side of things, in the shooting phase and the ordnance phase, we shot our prow bombards, but because it's a beam and we only have strength 3 on each, it was 1 shot each. We managed to get 1 hit with our bombard, taking off the shields. But the torpedoes were fired. 6 torpedoes were fired from the torpedo at the front on the prow. He shot down 2 of them, so there's only 4 left with some good rolls. 2 6s for his turrets. They were on target.
Yes, good training.
Fishing for 5s, we only hit 1, causing 1 wound. Sadly, no critical damage. And then the torpedoes followed through. We will be recalling or exploding them probably in the next turn.
Turn 2 movement for the Sons of Horus. So we on the right flank have decided to use the Murder to try and get out of the kill zone a little bit and move up and fast and furious as much as we can. We want to use him rolling a lot of dice with his starboard weapons on the closest target, hopefully softening things up for the Hades flagship, which has come around the asteroid field in the middle and is now getting ready to open up with all of his lances on that target. The first devastation here in the middle decided to issue orders and go all ahead full. The idea was that if we could accelerate out of the kill zone, that perhaps we would absorb less firepower, but unfortunately my all ahead full order, even though it was successful, was not very good on distance, and we're probably still going to get blasted next turn. Finally, my last devastation cruiser here came around trying to get shots on the 1 member of this wolf pack over here that didn't make it into the asteroid field. Remains to be seen if we'll get any shots, but hopefully we'll be able to do something in the shooting phase. Shooting phase for the Sons of Horus. So starting with the Murder, he elected to use all of his starboard weapons batteries instead of his lances, and he was actually successful in putting 2 hits onto this particular target here, reducing the shields in preparation for the flagship, the Hades, to unload with both his prow and dorsal lance batteries, which were successful in causing 3 hits onto the enemy, but no criticals. Rich did actually have a brace order on that target, but managed to not save a single one, which was very fortunate for me. So moving on to the middle devastation cruiser here, he did have his own lance batteries on the starboard side shooting at the same target, but because of the orders, we only got 1 shot and it was unsuccessful. Finally, my other devastation cruiser here on the left side was just able to shoot his lances at this particular target here of the Emperor's Children. No hits were actually scored. We did score actually 1 hit, excuse me on that, but there was no criticals or anything like this. For ordnance, the same ship in the ordnance phase launched his assault boats, which were successful. 2 of them came through, but unfortunately 1 blew up in the blast marker on the way in. The other one was not shot down by the turrets and managed to score a critical hit.
Yep, he took my prow armament down, which is my torpedoes.
Very, very lucky for me.
So I got to repair those before I can fire.
Yes, indeed. This particular Devastation cruiser also launched some assault boats over here, positioning them to force the Emperor's Children to actually make contact once they escape out of the asteroid field. The Hades right here did not have any ordnance of its own, but did suffer an ordnance attack from the Thunderhawks of the Emperor's Children, but we were incredibly successful in shooting them down. And even with their special save, both of these Thunderhawk squadrons went bye-bye. Finally, the last attack of the ordnance phase was actually a teleport assault of Termes out of the murder cruiser into the same damaged target of the Emperor's Children. It was successful, and it did score a critical hit, catching it on fire, which has the potential to actually cause more damage in the next turn. So all in all, pretty happy with how the shooting and the ordnance went for the Sons of Horus. Let's see what happens with the Emperor's Children in just a moment.
So movement for the EC in turn 2. We've had to be pretty aggressive. We're going heavily after this Hades. Everybody's closing in to try and take him out. He's one of the biggest threats. Those lances really, really hurt. The murder has a lot of cannons, weapon batteries, but it's those lances that really sting. We've kind of ignored his devastation here because it's zooming off into the distance and it's going to struggle to get into play effectively in the coming turns. We have decided quite a risky move to pick off the lone guy with 2 of our guys here. It's a risky maneuver because it's put us seriously out of position for future turns, but it may pay off. Shooting phase for the Emperor's Children. We started off on this side and we unloaded everything. The batteries, the 8 bombards from the bombard-focused strike cruiser, and we only managed to cause 2 hits taking down their shields, so they got away pretty unscathed.
And that was with me missing most of my brace for impact rolls as well.
Yes, that's a fact. Then we moved on to the middle here. This is where the brawl happened. Everything unloaded into the Hades. It was the half-strength strike cruiser with the broken torpedoes. It was the Thunderhawk strike cruiser with his batteries on the side and also his bombards. And then the bombards and Thunderhawks coming from the other Thunderhawk cruiser there. We managed to cause 4 actual hull points to them. And we also took down the engine room and the, I think it was the starboard
armament, yes.
Starboard
I elected
armament.
not to brace, but I took a lot of firepower on that one.
So he's taken 4 hull points. He's down to less than half of his, so we've kind of crippled him a bit.
Turn 3 movement for the Sons of Horus. Everything pretty much moved in a very similar pattern because what we're trying to do is we're trying to maximize the number of ships that can fire at the very damaged Emperor's Children cruiser, or strike cruiser that is. So the flagship Hades, because of the damage to the engine room, the critical damage, was only able to basically just move forward. He moved the minimum possible to maximize the weapons that can target. This murder class cruiser here also moved its pretty much minimum distance because again we're trying to maximize the fire on the damaged strike cruiser of the Emperor's Children. In the middle, the Devastation cruiser here moved forward, turned, moved forward again. We have 1 target that we are looking at here in the very middle of the board. And then finally, the last Devastation cruiser here made its breakaway around the asteroid field here, hopefully to get some shots also on the target in the middle. We'll see what happens in just a moment. Shooting phase for the Sons of Horus on my right flank. Both the murder and our damaged flagship, the Hades, unloaded absolutely everything into the wounded strike cruiser of the Emperor's Children. All of the shooting that they put onto him wasn't very effective. We did manage to take down his 1 shield that he had remaining. The Devastation cruiser here in the middle attempted to do a leadership check to try and finish off the damaged strike cruiser, but unfortunately failed. But he did put everything into this strike cruiser in the middle and managed to take down its shields and actually sneak 1 hit through. The last Devastation cruiser over here was successful in passing his leadership check, and through the combination of his lances, he did fire at the strike cruiser that was damaged of the Emperor's Children, attempting to take the last point off, but he was unsuccessful. It all came down to the ordnance phase. We had a teleport assault out of both of these ships here, and luckily that was what managed to take the last point off of the strike cruiser. That's 1 less torpedo boat for us to worry about. It is now a drifting hulk, and it will be moving forward in each of the movement phases shortly. The two Devastation cruisers here still had their starboard side launch bays available. They launched their assault boats into both of these strike cruisers, and we managed to destroy one of each of our squadrons.
Going through blasts, yes.
In blast. I'm more successful at destroying my squadrons than hurting you. And then your turrets on both were successful in striking down the remaining one. So yeah, a good phase, I think, for us managing to kill one of the strike cruisers of the Emperor's Children, but I think the real question is, will my flagship make it through this next turn?
Emperor's Children turn 3. Our Blazing Hulk moved forward 10 inches, a low 46, which was kind of annoying because it put us back in the way of our own troops. We had to like fly around it, so it did take off 5 centimeters from all of our movement here. But we've just basically put ourselves in the rear arc of this crippled Hades, trying to get its last points off here.
Hang on, baby.
On the other side, the bombard-focused strike cruiser is on the tail of this devastation here. It's now weaponless as well, so it's a bonus for us here. The other strike cruiser with the torpedoes, who have been repaired but not reloaded, is just in the back trying to play catch up here. And he's going to unload probably its right-hand side, which is starboard, starboard armaments, weapon batteries, and its bombard cannons into the back. Shooting phase for the Emperor's Children, and it wasn't a good one. We fired everything we could, including the 8 forward-facing bombards at this fleeing devastation, and we only managed to cause 1 hit, so just 1 shield down. Nothing went through. It is a lucky bugger there.
Yes, it is.
And it didn't brace even, so it was even luckier taking all that shots.
Risky, risky.
The Hades did brace, and it only had 1 shield left. We did take down the shield. We managed to cause 1 more hull point on it. Sadly, the bombards didn't manage to cause any critical damages. Also, a pretty ineffective shooting phase for those 2 ships there. Disappointing shooting from the Emperor's Children. We may suffer for that in the next phase.
Turn 4 movement for the Sons of Horus. We're basically trying to disengage from the close-range weapons of the strike cruisers of the Space Marines. We got punched in the nose in that last turn. Unfortunately, the Hades can't really get too far away, and he wants to maximize his shots before his demise. So he's moved this direction to open up his port side weapon batteries and his other options to shoot at the closest strike cruiser of the Marines, of the Emperor's Children Marines, excuse me. The Murder has decided that discretion is the better part of valor, and he's fleeing as far away as he possibly can. The 2 Devastations have moved towards the middle to be able to maximize their firepower on the same strike cruiser that the Murder will, or excuse me, that the flagship Hades will be targeting as well. Hopefully the combined firepower of these 3 ships can at least put a dent into them. Shooting for the Sons of Horus, and as planned, everybody that could was shooting at this particular strike cruiser here in the front. We started with the furthest Devastation, who unloaded his starboard weapons battery and lance into the target and managed to actually take 1 of the shields. The second Devastation was a lot more successful, using the same weaponry, taking off the second shield and managing to punch through 2 hull points on the strike cruiser. Finally, it was up to the damaged flagship, the Hades over here, who managed to also sneak through a hit, and it was critical, resulting in actually thrusters damage, doing an extra point of damage to the strike cruiser, and that's very, very helpful. In the ordnance phase, the Devastation that managed to reload its ordnance went ahead and sent in the assault boats. Both of them managed to not blow themselves up this time through the blast markers, but the turrets did take 1 down. The second one snuck through and managed to actually get a critical hit as well. So all in all, that was a pretty helpful phase, whittling down 1 of the targets, but it remains to be seen if my flagship can hold on.
Emperor's Children movement for our turn 4. In the back here, we are still tailing this Devastator. Our torpedo failed to reload in the back after everybody else managed to reload.
Very helpful for me.
So very, very disappointing there. Then the other 2 Thunderhawk strike cruisers, 1 crippled and 1 not, moved in coordination to try and take down the last Hades. We've also going to put some extra firepower onto the Devastation to help out these 2 trailing here. We're going to try and maximize fire in the 4th turn, because we really do need to blow something up, because we've not done anything yet. shooting phase for the Emperor's Children, and as you can see, it was more successful than we have been in the past. We started off with the crippled ship, and since he was facing in two directions with his port and starboard, he took his port shots at the devastation we're chasing over here and managed to strip off one of the shields from the side.
Indeed.
His starboard shot actually stripped off the last shield on the Hades because it was down to only one shield.
And I decided not to brace, hoping to maximize my firepower if I lived.
Yes, it was a risky choice, and he lived with the consequences.
Indeed, indeed.
The bombard cannon fired in the front, but was ineffective against the other devastation here. The unscathed Thunderhawk strike cruiser shot its what's left? Left is port.
Port, yes, port.
Its port gun at the other devastation, but missed, so didn't manage to take its last shield off. Then its bombard and the other starboard weapons batteries managed to take off the last hull points from the Hades, and that caused it to have a plasma overdrive. But thankfully, I let Jason roll it because it really mattered for him, because I was closer, and we were about 2 centimeters short.
2 cm short. That would have been nice.
Yeah, it would have been painful for me catching that. That's the danger of these plasma overdrives or warp drive implosions in the critical damage there. In the ordnance phase, we fired off all 3 of our newly reloaded Thunderhawks into the other devastation, and we managed to do some damage there. What did we do?
So the other devastation, you managed to actually cause a fire, and you also managed to do a shield collapse, which is pretty nasty.
Yeah, the shield collapse is going to help. So he's going to check if he recovers from the fire, and we will be on to the last turn of the game.
Turn 5 for the Sons of Horus, the last turn of the game. We risked it for the biscuit with the flagship, hoping to maximize firepower, but sadly he is gone, but not forgotten. So on this side, the Murder decided to attempt to come to a new heading in order to actually get some lance shots, because what we're trying to do is kill this last remaining wounded strike cruiser, which only has 2 hull points left. The devastation here in the middle managed to reload its ordnance in preparation for sending some assault boats at it. It moved the bare minimum to keep as many weapons as in range as possible. And the last devastation here on the left flank, he really didn't be able to do much, so he only kind of moved forward 10 because, again, he's trying to maximize the amount of fire on this wounded strike cruiser. Hopefully we can finish it off in the shooting. Last turn of shooting for the Sons of Horus. We started with this devastation cruiser here, attempting to remove the single shield off of the wounded strike cruiser, and we were ineffectual with all of his shots, but we were halved because of the order. We were also halved with the Murder over here, which was successful, however, in managing to take off the shield of the wounded strike cruiser, allowing this last devastation to unload everything into him. We didn't really do much except for we took 1 hull point, but we needed to do 2 to destroy him, so it was up to the assault boats, the remaining assault boats from the 2 devastations. We sent all of them into the strike cruiser. We lost 1 due to the turrets. We got 2 successful criticals, but neither one of them were able to actually take off the last hull point. We smashed the bridge, we did a collapse of the shields, but we really wanted to get 1 more hull point, and unfortunately we just couldn't do it. So that summarizes the last turn for the Sons of Horus, and we'll see if we can hang on for the Emperor's Children.
Last turn for the Emperor's Children. We've got a heroic charge here. We're driving by this devastation with no shields to try and unload into it, to try and strip it out. And we're also ganging up on the other devastation. Our torpedo boat has managed to come back into play after spending a few turns outside, quite far off. We're going to unload absolutely everything into these 2 to see if we can take them down before the end of this turn. Oh, the shooting and ordnance phase was a mixed bag. We completely failed to hit anything on this last devastation. We ripped off a shield at the very end from all those bombards, from the 8 bombards from the bombard striker. We were a bit more successful with the torpedoes. We managed to cause 1 hull point with the torpedoes from our torpedo boat.
Yep.
On the other side was a bit the same. Nothing went through, but we managed to get 2 of the Thunderhawks in, and the Thunderhawks managed to cause a hull breach, and the hull breach caused 2 hull points, and then we also caused thruster damage, which caused another 1 hull point. So 3 hull points off that one there. We're going to tally the number of hull points we've taken off each of us, because in a cruiser clash, it's just about hull points. So we'll be with you in the post game. Well, so that was the game. That was 5 turns of Battle Fleet Gothic. First time on the channel.
It was really fun to get back into it. I used to play BFG when it very first came out, but I have totally forgotten all of the rules. But I'm really happy to play this game, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Again, it's our first time playing Battlefleet on the channel. It's also one of the few times we've actually played it just in general, so we will have undoubtedly had some rules mix up. Please apologize, we apologize for that. Please forgive us. But all in all, I found it really enjoyable. It's a nice change of pace than from the Age of Darkness we normally play.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, again, as we alluded to in the intro, we really want to figure out ways to do a linked campaign. And so there's that aspect of testing it out, but also the game itself is just a lot of fun.
Yeah. So in the end, I think the Emperor's Children just pipped you at the finish line there.
Yes, they did. It was pretty much neck and neck all the way till the very last turn for the Emperor's Children, but you managed to sneak through quite a bit of damage at the very end, and that's what actually tipped it in your favor.
Yeah, I think it was 18-12 is the whole points we took off each other. And it really was, like you said, down to the very last turn where I was all in with everything left. Even though it wasn't as effective as I want, it was effective enough. And I think it came down to really the ordnance.
It did, and actually I also had one of my cruisers that, because its shields had collapsed, allowed you to sneak a lot of damage through there at the very end.
So definitely a fun game system. It's something, if the channel, if we get positive reviews, we're going to be bringing it back. I myself really do enjoy it. It's like I said, it's just a nice change of pace. It's a different game system, bit different strategy. I think just really helps broaden the mind on how Heresy can be played.
Yes, absolutely. And it's just a lot of fun. It's very nostalgic for me as well because of how long it's been since I've played the game.
Yeah, especially now with Legions Imperialis coming in, where we're getting the epic scale stuff. This is Battlefleet scale, so it's nice to see. I think with the resurgence of now Legions Imperialis, the whole Heresy ecosystem is going to get a resurgence here. Hopefully one day they bring Battlefleet back in a new rule set.
That would be pretty cool. I'm also excited because I want to paint my own fleets. This is actually a loner fleet for me. As everybody knows, I play a lot of Death Guard and a lot of Iron Hands with some other legions. So now I have an excuse to paint some ships for those legions. Yeah,
and it's quite useful. As you will have noticed, the keen-eyed among you, everything we're using is not the official models because they're gold dust right now to try and find, or they cost an arm and a leg. There's a great Battlefleet Gothic community, whether that is on sites such as Soulforge or just general the cult sites, the 3D cults. You can find all of these models online. Friendly 3D printers or professional 3D printers can get you. And it doesn't take a lot to get into Battlefleet Gothic.
Not at all. I think the plastic ships are pretty easy to find, but some of the old metal ships are the ones that can be a little bit extortionist on eBay. But make of that of what you will. But yeah, it is a relatively easy or low barrier to entry.
Yes, no. So, well, look, from us at Horus Wargaming, I really do hope you enjoyed our first take at Battlefleet Gothic. We hope to bring you more in the future, as well as the other systems in the Heresy space. Aeronautica was something we were looking at, but it's been discontinued for Legions Imperialis.
Yes.
So we'll just lump it all into that new game system, which I think is coming out in the coming months. So it'll definitely be on our channel here at Horus Wargaming. But please leave your comments and like and subscribe if you haven't already.
Yes, give us the feedback. Did you like this battle report? Do you want to see more of Battlefleet Heresy? We're more than happy to bring it to you. But yeah, hope you enjoyed it, and thanks again.